Yo, nice to see you guys again. Okay, in this lesson I'm going to be teaching you guys about the trim button on DJ decks, and I'm going to be talking about levels, okay? Let's do it. Hey guys, okay, first things first, check out the new camera angle. Keeping it fresh, keeping you guys on your toes.
Keeping you guessing.
And one other thing I want to show you before I start this video is the lengths I've gone to light this properly. Just check out this, okay? I've got all this going on just to show you the trim button.
I think that deserves a subscribe.
Okay, so before I begin, you need to understand that there's 4 ways to increase the volume when you're DJing. And each of these ways feed into each other, okay? So to start, you will obviously have the sliders here, which turn up the volume, okay? Then we'll just focus on one channel at a time. So this will turn up the volume. This then feeds into this channel here that also has its own trim section. So let me just press play here. I haven't got the volume playing, but the song is playing. And then you can turn, oh that's the high. Then you can take the trim button here and turn it down or turn it up. So that's the trim button. It's basically the individual volume of this channel here. It's like when you put that all the way up, the trim will then take you even higher. But you want to technically never turn the trim button up higher than the red there. So if it's playing, let's go to a heavy bit of the song, you can see it's in the red. If it's in the red, you should just turn it down a bit like this, okay? Then the trim will then lead into the master level. So again, if I turn the master levels all the way up so they're in the red, you don't really want them in the red, so you just turn them down slightly until they come out of the red. And then this will then lead into your PA system, or if you're in a club, their PA system, which they will then turn up until it's in the red. And that's basically it when it comes to the trim. But what I want to do in this video is explain to you in more detail why so many people are against going into the red on their DJ decks. Let's do that. Ooh. I cannot fucking believe that I set up all that equipment just to tell you that the trim button basically turned down the volume. Okay, so I'm going to run you through now why people don't like songs going into the red. As you guys know, I like to explain things in the most basic way possible. So the way I'll explain this is that speakers like these typically work by having a little disc thing like this that vibrates back and forth, okay? So it's just like boom, boom, like that. Those discs can only physically move so far. So even though you can keep turning up the volume, it's not like the discs are going to be going boom like that. They can only move so far. So what happens is they digitally get clipped. Music gets clipped. Now I'm already using terms and most of you are not going to have a clue what I'm talking about. So I'm going to visually show you what I'm talking about, okay? So here we can see I've got a track. And it's just some drum beats, so it sounds like this, okay? Close, close, it sounds like this. And if you zoom into this, you can see these are essentially sound waves going, and this is kind of like the distance that disc would move. Okay, now you can also call these dynamics. So from the top to the bottom of the vibration of the sound. Okay, so that is the dynamics of a song. Now, when you turn the volume up into the red and you really start to crank it, the peaks of these sound waves begin to get cut off. So I've got this plug-in here that essentially does clipping. So if we play this, I'm going to turn the volume down a bit. As I bring down this clip button here, you'll notice these red bits start to cut in. And that's the program's way of saying, I'm actually going to turn off the volume while I show you this. As I begin to bring that down, you can see that that's the program cutting off the top of these vibrations, okay? So let me actually play it to you with the music clipped and without the music clipped, okay? So that's clipped 9 dB, so that's clipped quite a lot, okay? And if I was to turn it off and on, just listen and see if you can hear any difference. That's off. That's on. Off. On. Can you hear any difference? I can't. I'm just going to show you one last thing that's going to visually show you what I'm talking about here. I rendered out this exact same clip, but with the clip completely clipped. Okay, so this sound here, let me just play it, sounds like this, and then this clip here sounds like this. This second one has been clipped, and you can visually see it. You can see, if I zoom in here into these two, this one goes higher than this one. Actually, it's better if I zoom out. You can see it's not as dynamic. And this is why people don't like you going into the red, because it takes away some of the dynamics of a track. Now, having told you exactly why people don't like going into the red, I have to tell you my opinion on it. Now here's the thing, okay? A couple of my tutorial videos, I've gone into the red, and some people have gone, hey, you're going into the red.
Blah, blah, blah.
Now, this is going to massively split people, because some people love their music to be really wide and dynamic, and loads of dynamics in their music. And then there's some people like me, and I know a lot of people are not like me, but I just like my music to be loud, and I like my party to be kicking off. I found a clip of David Guetta talking about this exact thing, and I'm going to play it to you guys now.
The whole game is how can we sound as loud as possible? Good engineers, like this guy, would tell you that a record needs dynamic, which is have a lot of difference between when it's not loud and when it's loud. DJs, out of experience, know that when you play a record that is louder, people are screaming. Because what's louder sounds better.
Now, I don't know whether it's just because I love house music and I love David Guetta's kind of music that's just loud and in-your-face music, but I kind of agree with him that if you've DJ'd in a club or a house party, louder is just better. And sometimes creeping into that red is just what you end up doing to pump out as much volume as you can. Now, I'm already aware there's going to be a ton of people watching this video going, no, that's terrible, you shouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah. But I'm just being honest with you guys. From somebody who's DJ'd for years, sometimes you creep into the red. And honestly, even in some of my videos, I've crept into the red. And I don't personally think it destroys music as much as some people do. In fact, most music these days is made to sound as loud as possible. Tracks are compressed to sound as loud as possible. When I say compressed, I'm referring back to this. The peaks have been chopped off so that most of the sound is squeezed in as much as possible. In fact, one of my favorite producers, or one of my favorite audio engineers, is called Luca Pretolesi. He's the guy who does all of Major Lazer stuff. And I found another clip of him talking about his mastering process. Now, mastering is when you take a track and you basically make it sound as loud as possible, basically. And in this clip, the first thing he says he does is he clips off the peaks. Here's the clip.
Go into the master, clip the master a little bit, tiny bit, and reduce what I'm adding. So essentially, I'm not going to get louder, just go to cut the top of the heels.
So as you can see, there's some of the top producers in the world. One of the first things they do is they slice off those peaks. Now again, there's going to be a couple of people going, yeah, but the music's already been mastered, you can't clip any more off. Which maybe that's true, but the other thing I want to show you guys is this. If you look at most music these days, if you just look up here at the top of the screen, you can see that it's quite dynamic, but as soon as it hits the heavy part of the song, like the drop, it's just completely squashed. There's no dynamic. So like I said, okay, so go to a regular bit, you can see it's more dynamic to that. Wait, let me turn that down a bit. You can see it's more dynamic, and as soon as it gets to the heavy bit of the track, look how all the dynamics of the track just disappear. Here we go. It's much louder, it's just squashed. Most of the dynamics have gone anyway. Now guys, I know I've rambled on quite a lot in this video, and here's my final thoughts on it, okay? I've explained to you why a lot of people don't like you going into the red, but the bottom line for me is this. If you're at a party and people are going wild and you feel like it needs that little bit extra push and you end up creeping into the red and it still sounds okay to you, I think you're okay to do it. If you're cramming it so far into the red that it's just distorted and sounds awful, then do not do it. If you can hear any distortion, bring it down. But if it's popping into the red every now and again on the heavier parts of the songs, if I'm DJing and I can see it hitting the red, I have to be honest and tell you I don't worry too much, and I've never ever in my years of DJing had somebody come over and go, I think you'll find the music's digitally clipping. No one's ever said it. No one notices. Remember guys, this is my ethos on it, is a good DJ is somebody who just gets the party started, gets people going mental. And sometimes louder, as David Guetta says, louder is just better. That's my opinion. I know all DJs are going to be split when it comes to that, but that's just my opinion. I've told you what it does. You can do what you want with that information now. Okay guys, if you are new to DJing and you don't have a clue what anything on this does and you really want to learn, I have a full course at beginnerdjlessons.com which you can instantly download. I teach you everything you need to know from knowing nothing at all right up to being able to do your first DJ gig, mix perfectly, beat match perfectly, you name it. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video, make sure you leave a comment so I know you guys enjoy them and you want me to keep doing them. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit this subscribe button here. Ooh, ooh. There's a little trick for you. Now you know I'm the kind of person you want to... If you want to see more of this, subscribe. Just subscribe.